Howdy folks, and welcome back to another tech tip. This week is an exciting one. We are going to be looking at a new AI tool, similar to things like Magic School or School AI, but it's through a really great company, Khan Academy. I don't know if you've ever used them. Great for science and math, especially extra help for kids. Well, Khan Academy has come out with a new AI tool for teachers, and there is a paid version that students can use if they want to pay for like extra support at home. But this is a free tool for all teachers to use. It's called Khanmigo. Let's have a look at it. So you go to khanmigo.ai. So like I said, it has a lot of the same kind of tools as some other ones out there, but it's another tool. Khan Academy has been a trusted educational company, so I like them. And here's what they can do: chunking text, class newsletter, class snapshot, clear directions, discussion, exit tickets, IPPs, informational text, lesson plans. Those are the big ones. Text leveler, letter of recommendation, learning objectives. So you can always have a good learning objective up at the front of the class. Report card comments, rubric generator. So let's go through some of this. You can see you can do filters, like let's go to planning, discussion prompts. So let's do one. Let's go 10th grade. It's on Science 10. We talk a lot about climate change. So give me some topics. So as always, be sure to review everything that it creates first, because you're the expert, not this. This is just a tool you use. How do industrial activities contribute to greenhouse emissions? In what ways do transport systems affect the climate? Exploring the effects. So these could be some ones to kind of spark a classroom discussion, like the bystander effect. So maybe you're doing sociology or psychology. What are the key psychological factors that contribute to the bystander effect? What are effective methods to encourage people to take action in emergency situations? All right, so it just gives you some ideas. So say you're planning out your lesson, you want some discussion topics, quick way to find a few that you might like. The lesson hook is a really good one. I like this. We'll do the lesson hook for 8th grades. Because it's American, I really suggest giving it the outcomes, because they're always American. So let's do an English 8. Let's try to do an IBL, English Language Arts. So learners will reflect on how cultural communities inclusive of the Mi'kmaq, Acadians, African Nova Scotians, and the Gaels are expressed through a range of communication forms. So this should really put it through the ringer. So I just said I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada, and I need an IBL activity. Let's see some hooks. So activities: a cultural artifacts roundtable. Begin by displaying a variety of cultural artifacts, traditional clothing, musical instruments, crafts from the Mi'kmaq, Acadians, African Nova Scotians, and Gaels. Ask them to hypothesize the significance of each artifact. That's kind of a cool one, where you can showcase either like, here's a piece of clothing, or here's a musical instrument from each of these groups that's special to them. Community story mapping provides students with large maps of Nova Scotia and asks them to mark locations significant to the Mi'kmaq, Acadians, African, Nova Scotian, and Gaels. I like that as well. Music and dance. People love music. Play traditional music or show dance performances from each of the 4 communities. Have them note the instruments, rhythms, and movements. So those are 3 really interesting hooks that you could use to get yourself into the lesson. And now let's use that same outcome and tell them about IBL, and then see if we can make a good lesson plan for it. Let's make a learning objective first. So the student-facing objective on this: by the end of the lesson, I'll be able to examine different ways cultures express themselves through stories, music, art, and writing, and see what makes each community unique in what they share and what they share in common. So yeah, so it just kind of wrote it down, same idea. So maybe you like that objective, or maybe you're going to co-create your objective with your students, but it's in here. All right, so let's make this lesson. So one thing it likes to do is it'll start off with topics already in Khan Academy. So there's a ton of different videos in here already. So especially science or math, it can help take those videos and use them to extend your lessons, but you can still go with whatever you want. So here we go. We have local culture comparisons. This is kind of the broad topic. Then I put in our learning outcome, learning on the 4 cultures, and then I need an inquiry-based lesson. So a 55-minute lesson. Let's see what it did with it. The nice thing about the lesson plan is going to take all those kind of parts we saw before, combine them all together. Those other ones are really good for, like, say you already have a lesson plan you like, but you just need a little piece for it, like an exit ticket or a learning objective or a hook to get people excited. By the end of this lesson, I'll be able to compare and contrast how different local cultures express themselves through language, art, traditions, and share my findings in a comparison chart. Now, maybe for this, you're going to be a little more specific. Maybe you just want to do art or music. This is just a general one. So that's where the crafting of the prompts really comes in, because you're not going to do a whole outcome in a day, in a 55-minute lesson. Like, you'll support that outcome, you'll reach closer to that outcome, but it's going to take more than that just to build to it. Warm up, notice and wonder. Display images representing cultural expressions from Mi'kmaq, Acadians, African Nova Scotians, and Gaels. And then introduce key concepts. Detailed examples, specific examples for each culture. This might not know a lot about our local kind of culture, so you can always come in and edit things or add to them. Introduce a structured comparison chart. Explain how to use the chart. Category language, so Mi'kmaq language, oral traditions, French dialects like our specific Acadian dialect, and folk songs. African Nova Scotians, Creole, and oral histories. I actually didn't know much about the Creole, so I kind of looked it up and I saw, like, yeah, some of the first African Nova Scotians that came, like the Black Loyalists or the Jamaican Maroons. Like, there's a lot of Caribbean influence, which brought about some Creole roots. So I'm learning things as we go. So then you have a think, pair, share activity, independent practice. Then you have an exit ticket with some questions on it, some suggested answers, a differentiation guide. So if you have advanced learners, encourage deeper analysis by having students reach additional cultural expressions or historical context. Comparative essay, facilitate a debate. And if you have striving learners, provide sentence starters or structured templates. Pair with a peer mentor for guided assistance. Allow use of visual aids or graphic organizers. Then it gives you important definitions, and then required materials, and then your lesson summary. So there's quite a bit of information here just coming off of one little outcome. And maybe this is a great starting point. I don't think it's ready. Obviously, you just can't show up the day of school and print that off and then just run with it. It starts you off in a great place to start thinking about. And maybe you don't use this activity, but it then sets you on a path to developing a new lesson that you will use. Once again, we're living in an amazing time where it's so much easier to find all these and create all these different resources. Let's check out a real-world context generator. So for this one, I'm just going to take an outcome from Citizenship 9, investigate economic disparity between various groups of people. So like these ones are already, I think, pretty, you know how they can apply to you in society, but maybe you need a little help wording it to your students. So to make a connection here, you can organize a guided walk around the school's neighborhood or a nearby area with diverse economic conditions. I don't think I would do this one because maybe you have students that are by the school that shows the disparity and you don't want to point out within your own classroom. Family budget simulation, create classroom activities where students are given family profiles with varying incomes and expenses, and then guest speakers. So there's some way to connect it with the real world. All right, so for this, I'm just going to generate, a complex text, and then we'll see how it does. About the extinction of the dinosaurs. But I want to differentiate it, so I want to level it. Boom, there's your original text, and now we're going to put it at a 5th grade level. So you can see it's quite a bit shorter. The extinction of the dinosaurs is one of the biggest mysteries in Earth's history. They lived on the Earth for over 160 years, but suddenly disappeared about 66 million years ago. This event is called the Cretaceous Paleogene. That's hard to break down for grade 5 because it is what it is. It wasn't just the dinosaurs that vanished. Around 75% of all species on Earth. Alright, so that kind of toned it down, and like you can go, I always like to push, like to see, let's go 2nd grade. And you see very short sentences. Dinosaurs lived a very long time ago. They were on Earth for many, many years, but then they all disappeared. That is called extinction. Scientists have many ideas about why dinosaurs went extinct. So this one here is pretty cool. Make it relevant. You give your learning objectives, then you describe your class. Many students in my grade 6 are big soccer fans. So let's make something relevant. So let's do this because I'm not feeling creative. Calculating the average rate of change of a polynomial between 2 points. Many of my students are interested in lobster fishing as a career. and polynomials. Understanding polynomial functions through lobster population data. Students will analyze real-world data related to lobster populations over time. Modeling growth rates. Create polynomial models to represent the growth rates of lobsters under different environmental conditions. This is pretty cool. There's a lot of cool little tools here, right? So it's not that you have to use the lesson planner. In fact, the lesson planner, like, I would rather use something like ChatGPT or Claude, just because I like to talk back and forth with my lesson plan. But for these little things, like make this relevant, give me a classroom hook, make a real world connection, I think there's some really powerful tools here. In report card comments, remember, you're never putting kids' names in here, but you can still create a bank of good comments you can draw upon when it's time. Rubric generator, what a great tool. All right, so that's it for me. That is Khanmigo through Khan Academy. Great tool, 100% free. Check it out and see if it can save you some time, give you some new ideas. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.